heard from a viewer who was having problems with their 7.2 2.3 transmission. It was not going into fourth gear. He said, you know, you go down the road and just it would shift fine and then it just wouldn't go into fourth gear. And he told me that he changed the filter, he changed the fluid. You know, of course, he checked the modulator. But let's go back to a couple videos ago when I showed this live demonstration. You remember in fourth gear, when the transmission's in fourth gear, you have the K2 drum and the K1 drum engaged. Those are the only two that are rotating. So you have straight through fourth gear. So obviously you're going to say, well, hey, if it's not going into fourth gear, then there's something wrong with one of these drums, losing pressure. And I think you saw that when we took this apart, we were missing the sealing rings, so it wasn't getting pressure up into the drum. So he took his transmission apart, this was a while back, and he resealed the whole thing, put it all back together, put it back in the car, and it still wouldn't go into fourth gear. Do you know how discouraging that would be? He told me after trying a couple of other things that he discovered what the problem was. He didn't tell me this, but I assumed that by that time he was pulling his hair out. You know, we all end up pulling our hair out at some time working on these old cars. But he decided, hey, I'm going to change one more part, one more thing that I did not do on the overhaul. And guess what that part was? That's correct, the valve body right there. We got another used valve body. He just put it in and the transmission shifted into fourth gear. So I think you can understand this can be a problem. And a lot of people avoid doing anything with this. I know there are people on the internet that actually recommend you don't take the valve body apart because it's so complicated. You might lose some of the springs or balls inside. So you have this vision here of taking this apart and balls and springs and everything are flying all over. And there's no way in the world that you'll ever get it back together. So most people say, I'm just going to leave the valve body alone. Well, if you do that, because of the age of these and the contamination that could be inside the valve body and the sealing rings inside that could be worn, when you do that, you stand the risk of the transmission not working properly. But there is an advantage here because you don't have to pull the transmission. It's very easy to pull the valve body off. Now, I have to clarify that I don't think it's particularly easy to overhaul it. I'm just going to quickly pull this off. Most of the bolts are already removed and kind of show you what you're dealing with if you're going to service, repair, clean, whatever the valve body. It's held on by 15 long bolts. And I'm just going to pull these two out that I'd put in to hold this in place. Okay, the valve body comes off, just like that. And then you have this intermediate plate. And once you pull the intermediate plate, which has a gasket on it, you can see all these channels going everywhere. And I know if the first time you see this, you're going to think of a corn maze. And you're probably thinking, I don't want anything to do with a corn maze. But like the transmission itself, a lot of this is due to lack of knowledge and fear. If you don't know what's going on inside the valve body, hey, you're going to say, I don't want to take that apart. I don't want the springs and balls and everything flying all over the place. The reason I'm laughing, you hear this on some of the forums that, I don't do that. It's too much work. You know, we started out in part 1 talking about those 5 key elements that control the shift sequence inside the transmission. And then in the next part, we talked about the actuators, the 5 actuators that actuate the key elements, and every one of those was a piston. And of course, we know that to activate the actuator, you're going to have some sort of hydraulic fluid under pressure. So what activates the activation of the actuators? It's this right here, the valve body. If you have a transmission, let's say it's less than 250,000 miles, because you get up in that 250 to 300,000 mile and above range, you're just talking about age-related issues. But I found pretty much under 250,000 miles if it's had regular fluid changes and it does not have any metal particles in the pan, the fluid does not smell burnt, and the outside of the transmission is not leaking fluid all over the place, you might consider the valve body. One of my goals here is to remove some of the mystery surrounding these valve bodies, because when you remove the mystery, you remove part of the fear. And when you remove the fear, that builds confidence, and you might be willing to take this on. If you're looking at this and you're having transmission shifting problems, hey, this is something you can do. Now note here, this is not the way you take these apart. I'm just showing you all this because this is everything you'll have to deal with. It's very important when you do this that you remove these different command valves and accumulators, that you take them out and you put them in specific orders. You can actually take this apart, remove all the pieces, clean it, and put it all back together. You just have to be careful. You just have to make sure that you're keeping track of it, that you have the right documentation. Now, why should you do this? Why do you need to take a valve body apart when you're working on your transmission? In fact, you could do this without even removing the transmission from the car. Let me show you. This is the key reason why you want to do this. Don't let anybody tell you, oh, if your valve body's working okay, just put it back in. The valve body that you see here was removed from a 1980 300D Mercedes. It's a 722.1, had approximately 210,000 miles on it. It wasn't particularly exhibiting any problems, but I thought I would open up the valve body for show and tell, all right? It comes in 3 pieces. Now, before I open this up, I want to talk about cleanliness. If you read the Mercedes repair information, both on microfiche and some of the old manuals, when they talk about working on the valve body, guess what they say that you should put this on? It's leather. They tell you to put this on leather, keep all the parts on leather, because leather doesn't have any lint on it. I see these people using these blue shop towels. They're not lint-free, and other paper and stuff to clean these. Why do you think the factory said, you got to put this on leather so you absolutely don't get any lint in it? Well, it must be pretty critical that you don't get stuff in here, because if you get stuff in here, then it's not going to work right. So what stuff is getting in here anyway? Look at this gasket. Look at that crud. What do you think that's doing inside the command valves and the check balls, okay? Now let's look at this section of the valve body. You'd say, what? How did all this stuff get in here? Look at this. Way up in here, down in these channels. You'd think, well, this is some of the worst I've seen, okay? Now this is in 2 pieces over here, so there's 3 pieces in this valve body. Let's take a look at this one. We open it up. It has an intermediate plate. Look at the dirt in there, see? And then look in here. Look at the junk. So where does that come from? And if the factory's telling you to put this together on leather so you don't get any dust in it, I think you can see I'm making my point here. Most of the stuff you see in the valve body comes from worn clutches. The material coming off the clutches as they wear, and it works its way down into all these passages. If you're suddenly having some transmission shift problems, imagine that all you'd have to do to fix them is to remove this. You can remove this from the transmission without pulling the transmission out of the car. You take it apart, you clean it. Can you imagine the joy if you found out that was the only problem with your transmission? Okay, I know what some of you are thinking, well, the valve body, that's a lot of work. Well, it's not as much work as pulling a transmission. If you've changed transmission fluid, filter, gasket, and been under the car, you can pull the valve body out and clean it. We're not talking about overhauling. We're just talking about taking it all apart. Now, there are some upgrades you can make to this, and I'll be carrying some of those things on my website, but you just don't have to think in terms of overhaul. Just basically cleaning everything and meticulously putting it back together could solve the problem. There's no guarantee. You say, well, what if I go to all that work and the transmission's still not shifting properly? Well, at least this part of the job is done, okay? You see where I'm going with that? You don't have to redo this because you didn't have to pull the transmission. But if you go after the valve body first and, even if you make some modifications to the valve body and it solves the shifting problems, you can pat yourself on the back because suddenly you've saved quite a bit of work. But if it's still not solving the problem, then you may have to take the transmission out and go through it, but at least your valve body is done. Since I completed my video series on the 722.3 and 722.4 transmission about a month ago, I'm getting a lot of questions about the valve body. In fact, I have people out there saying, Kent, you got to do a complete video on taking a valve body apart and rebuilding it. I don't think a video is the proper way to explain how to do one of these. It's so much of the step by step by step. You're going to be turning the video on, stopping the video, backing the video up. What was he talking about that one ball, or what about that one spring? Where does it go? I think a written manual is the way to go on this. I want to show you what's in the kit and why I include it. So first off, we're going to talk about this little manual. You know, I've downloaded this off the internet. This is public information, but it's very detailed in terms of where all the parts go inside the valve body. And that's the key to doing this, making sure you get everything put back together properly. You're going to do a lot of cleaning and so on. But this is the information you'll receive, and I bind it and I put a plastic cover on it because I know you're going to get oil on it. And the reason I have not double-sided it is you can make notes on this side of the page related to this unit you're working on as you're going through the overhaul process. And then I include, of course, the sealing rings, the complete set. You will find there are extra ones in here, so don't worry about that. You just take your accumulators, take the old sealing rings off, compare them to the size you need, and install these. Just be careful, don't spread them too far. And then I have these very special 12 by 16 inch lint-free, and these are really lint-free cloths, and this is what you want to use when you're reassembling the valve body. And these little splinter-free smooth sticks I include are for cleaning. You can actually wrap part of the lint-free cloth around these to do cleaning in the bores. And here are the bottles that you can put your lubrication in. Here is some transmission goo. And then finally, you're going to get this. And what do you think that's for? Yeah, that's right. When you pull all those parts out and do one half at a time, you're going to put the parts in here. You can even mark what they are, and this will keep them organized, so if you happen to bump your workbench, you're not going to go flying all over the floor. And then I'm going to include a gasket for the transmission for the 722.3, because a lot of times you're not going to need to replace the filter. You just need to replace the gasket. When you drop the pan, pull the valve body off, overhaul the valve body, and put it back on. I highly recommend doing this job because more and more problems with shifting on these transmissions is turning out to be valve body issues. Not only issues inside the transmission, but the valve body is now highly suspect. And I want to talk about doing one of the most common upgrades that you'll hear about on the internet. Now, people call this upgrade the K1 upgrade, and I'm going to disagree. This is the K1. This is commonly referred to as the K1 inside these transmissions. So you really can't call this a K1 upgrade. This is the upgrade we're going to be talking about here. This is a part that goes into the valve body, and this is called an accumulator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to always refer to this as the K1 accumulator upgrade. You're looking at the original setup here, the original accumulator, and this is the upgrade right here. Now, some of the later transmissions in the early 90s already had the upgrade in them, and you can recognize the difference between the upgrade has a black plastic end cap and the original has kind of, yellow. So what's the difference here? Take a look right here. Look at the big spring. The big spring on the upgrade is shorter and has thicker coils. The center spring looks very close, but if you look, you can see a little bit difference in the gap. The length is the same, but there's a difference in the gap. And then look at the end spring, which goes down into the housing of the accumulator. Height is a little bit smaller, but you can see it has less coils. So there it is, folks. This is something that you can do yourself. It's not real difficult, and you can actually do it without removing the valve body or dropping the transmission. If you don't already know, let's take a minute and talk about the purpose of this upgrade. It's to improve shifts between second and third gear, particularly if there's a delay or what some people call flaring between 2 and 3. This is a very common issue on these transmissions. You'll go along, it'll shift in a second, and then between second and third, you'll kind of feel this little bit of engine acceleration before it engages. Well, what the accumulators do, particularly this accumulator inside this valve body, it delays the engagement between second and third. So if you didn't have accumulator, it would be abruptly like that when it shifted. So the accumulator softens or transitions that shift to something that's much more pleasurable, if I could use that. So what they've done is they've modified the spring pressure, and I'm not going to get into all the specifics of the engineering of these springs, but that's basically what they did. They've modified the spring pressure inside the accumulator to not delay so long. So you'll eliminate that flaring, and you're going to say, yes, that's exactly the problem I have. I'm going to put this, K1 accumulator upgrade my transmission. All my problems will be solved. Well, not so fast. What if you do this on your transmission, put it all back together, you're all excited, you get in the car, you go down the road, and it's still flaring between second and third. How could that be? You were told that this would fix your problem, but it didn't. Why? Some of you are going to say, hey, Kent, just adjust the modulator. That's going to solve all your problems. I see this a lot. Remember, these transmissions are old, really old, and they're getting tired. And I know people try to solve all the problems by, adjusting the modulator back and forth and thinking they can change the pressure and get rid of the flaring. What happens is, if you have flaring in just one gear, you play around with the modulator, you may affect that one, but another one might be slipping or jerking. And when it gets to the situation where you've got a pronounced flare between second and third only, it's probably not modulation pressure. So if you've completed this upgrade and it's still flaring between second and third, in my humble opinion, it's going to be a problem with this, okay? This is your K1, and it has clutch discs in there. Now, if the clutch discs are worn, well, you can put every upgrade in the book in there and it's still going to flare. Also, people don't mention this very often, but there are 2 lip seals in here, and if these lip seals are worn or even cracked, you're going to be losing pressure in the K1, and it won't fully engage the clutches. So what you're looking at here is a cutaway, and I'm going to briefly explain where this K1 is located and what happens when it shifts between second and third. So a quick overview of what's going on here. This is the B2 piston. This is the B1 piston. This is the B2 brake band. This in here is the B1 brake band. And the drum down in there is the K1. This was the K1, okay? And the drum down here is the K2. So when you're going along in second gear, watch this. Both of the brake bands lock onto the K1 and K2 drum. Now, when you shift between second and third, this stays engaged, but this piston comes out, releases the brake band, and at the same time, pressure builds and closes the clutches together. So imagine what happens if you're losing pressure in the drum or your clutch packs are worn. You're going to get the delay between second and third. So don't always assume that doing this K1 accumulator upgrade is going to solve your problem.